All right, Tyler, welcome. Good to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I've been following the journey since you left Morning Brew, and we're kind of building this in public. And so big fan. I've been using beehiiv now two times, but I've actually my sales skills for founders newsletters what is it, 59 issues in. So it's fun, man. It's fun building the newsletter. I know you've been building yours for a while.
Yeah, we're 2 years into mine.
Yeah.
2 years? Yeah, just about a little over 2 years.
Yeah. Now we have a few differences in subscriber numbers, but mine's like 200. I think you're like what, 135,000 or something.
Yeah,
So
we're hanging around 130s right now.
awesome, man. Well, we'll get into that a little bit because I think you can share obviously a lot of help for folks. I wanted to kick off here. I'm just kind of curious, just your journey a little bit. If you go back to 7, 8 years ago, even what problem did you see at Morning Brew that you kind of wanted to put all chips in the middle and make this jump as your next career?
Yeah, so when I first joined Morning Brew, I actually started on contract working for them. And the Skim actually was like the larger newsletter in the space that had come a few years before us. And so they were always the North Star for us. And I worked closely with the co-founder, Austin. And Austin was always like, the Skim has this incredible referral program. They have this design. They do this quote of the day. Like, I think a lot of our inspiration came from the innovation that the Skim had in building their newsletter. And the first thing that he had me build was the referral program. And so the referral program, we kind of copied it from the Skim, right? For them, it was refer someone, you join like the Skim ambassador program, you get your name written at the bottom of a newsletter, and then there's like other perks as well. And so while I was on contract, I basically like reverse engineered, rebuilt that referral program. And then it ended up getting a lot more complex as time went on, where there's like automated nudges and different things to get people across the finish line to hit that next milestone. But I built the referral program. That led to me taking on a lot more projects that summer, which led to the full-time job. And while I was there, we were hosting a website on like Squarespace or WordPress. Every day, our writers were copy and pasting content from a Google Doc into an HTML template, which would get messed up at least once a week. And we'd be up till 3 a.m. debugging and figuring out how to get it back into the HTML template. The ad sales team and brand partnership team was working out of Google Sheets, managing like 10 different advertisers every single week. And we would always forget links or images or assets, or we didn't have a final approval. And so you kind of see just like how everything was so loosely taped together. And yet we were kind of the shining star, growing very quickly and building a large subscriber base. And so I think it was just like the old paradigm of you host your website in one place, you copy and paste into the email platform. The referral program's a third party software. The
Hmm.
ad sales is like a totally separate thing. It was like a very disparate system. And so that was like the first real pain point that I realized.
Hmm. I'm actually just random. Is how does like with Austin and Alex, they're building that. How like you obviously built that internally, right? At Morning Brew, kind of. How do you take that idea? Because I know a lot of companies don't allow you to like take the invention, if you will. Like I'm just kind of curious how that conversation was. Like, hey, this is something I want to build, and it's kind of some of the IP maybe they had there. I'm just kind of curious that.
Yeah, I think like nothing was like proprietary per se. Like the referral program had been replicated by a bunch of other software companies. So while we were at Morning Brew, there was a lot of these like, hey, if you want the referral program that Morning Brew has, we have like a referral software. But it wasn't proprietary by any means, I'd say. I mean, to answer your question directly, they weren't happy when I moved to starting beehiiv. I violated my non-solicit and my non-compete like within the year. And so there was definitely a level of them being pretty pissed off for like a lot of reasons. My two co-founders are two software engineers that I had hired at Morning Brew.
Okay.
And at the time I left and they had just gotten acquired. They had like a 3 to 4 person engineering team. And to have 2/3 or 2/4 of your engineering team potentially leave to co-found another startup, just a bad situation to be in as someone who just got acquired and has all of these expectations to continue building the business for Business Insider. So I think there was some feelings around the initial move, but eventually everything worked itself out. Both Alex and Austin are investors in beehiiv today,
Wow. Okay.
and I'm close with both of them.
Yeah. When you first started, like the first initial kind of okay, we're doing this to how it is today. Like, did you realize the span was going to go as quick? Because I mean, you all have massive growth in the last what 3, 4 years. Had you envisioned that, or is that something that came out of nowhere, you think?
Definitely the hope going into it, right? Is I think this can be a really big business. I've seen, MailChimp sold for 12 billion. There's other email, just like email only platforms that are doing tens, if not hundreds of millions in revenue. So I knew the space was big and I knew that the industry could support another platform like ours. At how, like, I never really wrote out a goal of like, I think we would be this big with this many users or this much revenue by year 2, year 3, year 4. But I would actually say the roadmap that we built is actually pretty identical to what we had initially laid out. Like there are things like we didn't know we were going to acquire a website builder, and I didn't think that we would be building a lot of these like digital products and some of the things on top of the website builder space. But the core platform, being able to tie this growth mechanism with like the ad network that can help you monetize your newsletter and kind of how all the pieces fit together, that was like a pretty clear vision from day one for us. So I'd say we're kind of like 80% on track of like what we had initially set out to do, and then have always been very open-minded to take feedback from users.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think initially when I started, well, one, I always like to bet on the early, like the dark horse, if you will, that startup. So like I said, when I saw you kind of building, and I started my first newsletter, I think I did like 20 issues or something like that. It was on beehiiv. And I think the thing that drew me to it was, I don't know if you like this comparison or not, but I'll say it as kind of Notion-esque in terms of like it was easy to create because I had used MailChimp for a lot of years, and no shade on them. They did good for a brief period of time, but I thought it was very difficult to create newsletters with. I don't know if that was the intention
Yeah, it's
going
funny you
in.
say that. I think our initial seed deck that we had, it was like the content discovery of like Netflix, the writing of Notion, the like, yeah. So
Okay.
we did have that in there at one point. And I think that's really, if you exclude Substack and a few other more modern entrants into the space, the industry is filled with incumbents that had been around for 15, 20 plus years, typically post acquisition, don't have like founders in seat, don't have like their initial leadership, and are kind of like in the private equity game of just kind of like cutting costs and trying to improve profit margins. And I think it's a totally different paradigm of software, different user experience, and different way of running the business. So I think that's kind of our opportunity to take advantage of.
Hmm. So is someone kind of at the helm here again, 3-4 years kind of running this? I want to look at, if you had to take like the opposite, the devil's advocate of what would you done differently, and think of it in terms of running a business. Again, someone's out there that's trying to start. What kind of potholes would you help them navigate around? Maybe things to consider.
It's hard to answer because like one, we've been very fortunate that every month we've never had a down month, so we've grown
Okay.
every single month, which is great.
Yeah.
And we haven't had like any P0 like just like shit the bed moment where it would look like everything was going to go under. So I think we've avoided a lot of like the major pitfalls. There are definitely some things that we do that are kind of a double-edged sword in the sense that what I think we're best known for is our product velocity. We have an incredibly technical team. We have tons of engineers. We ship very quickly. A lot of that comes from the insecurity of we entered a market that had dozens of much larger competitors that were already doing tens and hundreds of millions in revenue. And when people adopted our platform in the very early days, they couldn't do a fraction of what you could on another platform. And so doing everything I could to convince people to sign up for the platform, and then just fielding emails day after day of them complaining that they couldn't send automations or they couldn't do this customization or the website builder sucked or whatever it was, is actually like what fueled a lot of the aggressive shipping culture to be able to address those pain points and catch up to everyone else in the market. But I say it's a double-edged sword because now, while I don't think we are losing customers due to lack of functionality, I think we've been able to catch up very quickly in the market and offer far more than most other competitors in the space. There's like a maintenance level to, if you have 50 features, those are 50 things that you have to kind of maintain. And I've learned in when users do churn, like the different reasons that they churn is like they love the ad network, which is totally unique to us. They love the recommendation network. They love the editor. They love the website. But there's like one feature that's like maybe priority number 26 for us that they
Yeah.
used once and it just wasn't as good as the rest of the platform. And like one C experience on the platform kind of pulls back your perception of the rest of the platform. And so you just kind of like, as we've been able to ship so many features, it's a lot of surface area to maintain. And if we want this best in class product, like I used our survey form yesterday for like the first time in like a few months. It hasn't gotten a lot of love in the past like 6 months.
Yeah.
It's just not like a top priority feature for us. And it's pretty noticeable that it's not as polished as the rest of the platform. And so like as a user, you can see then be like, oh, I thought that they were like had this incredible product, but I tried using their survey feature and it kind of sucks, right? And so like that's like it seems irrational, but you learn that users are actually pretty irrational. And the smallest things that can taint the perception of what you're building can influence whether or not they want to renew or continue spending on the platform. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say it's like a cautionary tale in product shipping.
That's fair. You can't do everything for sure, and it's also I think is like how do you? I remember I think it was DHH from Basecamp when he was on. Like he talked about the importance of listening to your customers, but ultimately you have to make the decision, understanding the focus and vision of the company, not with one random person said. Right? I mean that's the rub of it.
And I think that's something that we have done like an okay job at. Like I think our competitive advantage is when people talk about I DM'd Tyler that we wanted this feature and he built it for me the next day. Like those types of customer stories hold a lot of weight and they've built a lot of trust with our user base and have brought a lot of growth. Um, but I think we also struggle with focus sometimes, right? Like when you start saying yes to everything, we become this engine where you and one of these VCs like gave me this analogy that I'm going to totally butcher, but I thought it was really interesting. And he was like, you're not an email platform. You're an engine for stuff that people want to exist and you're able to bring it to life, which I thought was like a really interesting, basically just like leaning into the product velocity component of people can adopt our software and be like, it would be amazing if you had this automation feature and we can build it. I do think we have pretty good focus, but it is a tough balance of being able to say yes to expand the addressable market and build those amazing customer stories while also being very disciplined to realize every yes is you saying no to 10 other things.
Yeah. It is funny you mentioned the surveys because I had pulled the community I'm in, Chanel's Growth in Reverse, and someone said like, "Hey, ask Tyler if you get a chance about the surveys, and are they going to update the surveys at all?" I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to weave that in the conversation. So it's funny you mentioned that. Is
Yeah, well, the answer is we are because so that's like the benefit of me running product and me having a newsletter on the platform. So I think there's a bunch of reasons for building in public and for any founder to actually use their product. But like I hadn't used surveys in 6 months. I had to use it yesterday.
yeah,
It's kind of a piece of shit. I think it could be there's like a lot of things that kind of annoyed me about it. And so on our we do a cool down. So the way we run our engineering process is a lot of companies do like a 2 week sprint and they just keep doing 2 week sprints as like a way to break down like the task of like what we think we'll reasonably accomplish in 2 weeks. We actually adopted a 3 week sprint and a 1 week cooldown, which is the cooldown is for bug fixes, quality of life improvements, scaling issues. Like basically we had created this culture of such high product velocity and throughput that a lot of these like developer experiences or bugs or scaling issues just never got attention because I was going for big flashy headline of we launched these features, which I know brings in new customers. CTO is complaining that we're not paying attention to any of the bugs or issues that are like plaguing the platform. And so the way that we solved that was by implementing this 1 week cooldown after a 3 week sprint. So I say all of that because next week is our 1 week cooldown. And after I use surveys, I added like 10 things to the survey,
nice.
like around surveys for the cooldown.
Good. I'm excited to see that that launch because I'm trying to use them more. I noticed you actually with your newsletter you do, but I just had done it recently where like someone signs up and then move them to a survey to fill out. I probably have too many questions. Is there a number of questions you think are best?
It depends on how good the survey builder is. Right now, it's like a 6 or 7 out of 10. And so like I just created a survey with 15 questions and like was fine. But there's like some nuances. It'll get better. But if we had this conversation by the end of next week, I'd have a lot more confidence in it. But it's one of those things that the big picture, when you see of everything that we're building, it really is like a very unique one-of-one experience where we host the website. You can build like different lead magnets and landing pages and everything else. We have a survey builder built into the platform. And the survey you can actually designate as like a post-subscribe survey. So every time someone signs up for like a specific page or lead magnet or your main sign-up flow, you can actually have them submit a survey right after to collect information on who they are, which is very valuable for anyone building an audience. And then you can even like integrate that survey response to an automation that goes out. If they answer X question like Y, then send this email to them in automations. So you can kind of see like website builder, with surveys, with this automations, with like the newsletter, and then you factor in like the ad network, where it really is like this very unique ecosystem that is so differentiated from anything else in the market. But it kind of goes back to the problem I was complaining about before, is like, of everything I just said, 6 of the 7 are great. The surveys are okay. And so you have to like maintain this quality bar. And there's only so many engineers and designers on the team to do so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll be looking forward to the survey and obviously a lot of the other stuff coming out here soon. All right, let's transition into some rapid fire. I think this will be fun. And actually, I did have a couple questions from the community, so I'm going to throw those out here. That we'll kind of use that to kick off rapid fire. All right. So what kinds of newsletters, topics, or formats are you seeing publishers have the most success with?
Great question. And the two main ones that jump out at me are the most commoditized, which is like the Morning Brew recap of like what's everything that's happened in crypto, what's everything that's happening in AI, what's everything in business and finance and politics, like the recap aggregation where the value of the publisher is actually the editorial. Like for Morning Brew, we always used to debate, should we be customizing what every reader sees to their preferences? But the actual value of Morning Brew was that our editors had like a great pulse of what's important to our audience, and them actually saying that this is the most important story that they should care about is like the value of reading Morning Brew, along with like their witty content and everything else. So like these recap aggregating newsletters are great for different categories. And then the other one, I guess, is just like the polar opposite, which is like the Ben Thompson stratechery, kind of like my newsletter as well, like 1,500 word essay about a topic where you go deep for whatever your audience is interested in. For stratechery, it's like business and strategy. For me, it's startups and building in public. Both serve a great purpose. I think as far as like those that are doing like paid newsletters and building a subscription product around it, actually building that fandom with like a more long form, thoughtful newsletter seems to be working really well.
By the way, I don't know if I've ever heard you say this, so I'm just kind of curious. I love Big Desk Energy, the name. Where did that, do you remember the day when that came in your head? And there's probably a little chuckle there, but.
Yeah. I was back. It was in the Morning Brew days, actually. How did that come about? The playlist happened first. I think I literally was just listening to a song that was, I was like, if I could listen to this song whenever I'm working, I would be so much more productive. I think it's Silk Jam, which is the first song on the playlist. Then I just added like 5-10 more songs. And I don't know, it was around the time in like 2017, 2018, where Big Whatever Energy just kept popping up over and over. And because it was a work playlist, I just made it Big Desk Energy, and it's worked well since.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so to that point, we cannot use Big Desk Energy for this answer, but if you got kicked out as a CEO today and you were going to go full time into building a newsletter, what do you think you would build?
Yeah, the way that I think about it, if I was going to go full time and I just got removed from my job at beehiiv, like I think there's different ways to think about building a newsletter. Some are for like audience and for like the love of writing and the art of being able to create content. The other approach is like, where can I make the most money possible? And so I'd think through like, I think there's a reason why there's been such a proliferation of AI newsletters. Because if you have an ad-based model, it basically all boils down to how much are advertisers willing to pay you to get in front of that audience. And if you're writing about AI, and we've seen the fundraising valuations and how much money all of these companies are raising, I think it's like 2/3 of like VC money last year went to like AI backed startups. And so if you're building an AI type newsletter and you can actually differentiate, there's a lot of money for advertisers. I'd say like a caveat there is it's an incredibly crowded space. We know because we have like hundreds of these very popular AI newsletters on the platform. But I kind of work backwards from that. And then I guess the other element that I think is interesting is like one way that I've been able to monetize Big Desk Energy outside of just the sponsorship is I host like a quarterly mastermind in Costa Rica with like 8 other founders. And that's like totally broken my frame of reference of like, how do you actually monetize an audience? And I think most people on YouTube are like, oh, you just turn on ads, or you can do like native ad reads yourself. For newsletters, it's traditionally sponsorships and ads, which work really well. There's affiliate, and then there's paid subscriptions, which has been like more of a novelty in the past like 5 years since that's been introduced with like us and Substack. But I'm really interested in like, how do you get people that are so passionate and interested in something to pay $10,000, $20,000 for like a very high ticket
Yeah.
event or experience. And so like my founder masterminds are $10,000 per spot. I typically run them solo. So it's $80,000 in revenue. And like I associate that with newsletter revenue essentially. So I think that's like another element to think about.
Yeah, it's an outside the box kind of thinking of how to monetize for sure. Or by the way, I just went to Costa Rica for the first time for my honeymoon last year. Where do you go? What's the spot?
So Santa Teresa, I think, is the best.
Okay.
If anyone is frequent Santa Teresa, I'm sure they'll complain in the comments that I'm giving away the secret. But Santa Teresa is incredible. I host my masterminds in Tamarindo, but I've been all over. I've been to Costa Rica about 10 times now.
Oh wow. Yeah, I love it. It's so magical of a place. This is like so neat. So yeah, that's awesome. Okay, let's do the rapid fire. I got the jar here. So rapid fire questions. Let's see what comes out.
I'm
I
assuming
don't
you want rapid fire answers as well.
No, not necessarily. I mean, we sort of, but I say rapid fire, but then we go a little deeper if I have some follow-ups. So take your time if you want to think about it. What book has had the most profound impact on your growth?
That is a tremendous question. On my growth, I think the way that I'll answer this question is like a lot of my growth now is very intertwined with the business. And so leaning towards answering with a business book that I think has been incredibly valuable. No Rules Rules is like my favorite business book. It's about the Netflix culture, everything in terms of how they're incredibly transparent. They share like the earnings before earnings go out. So it's like, insider trading, like a federal crime for anyone to like share that publicly outside of like those walls, but they trust their employees with that type of information. Yeah, I don't know. It's like almost everything that they've run through in the book, like we have applied at beehiiv. Outside of the very first thing is pay like multiples above like market rate. Like we pay very high on the higher end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But we're not Netflix and don't have like the multi-billion-dollar market cap. I think they pay like entry level employees like well into the hundreds, $200,000. So
Yeah.
yeah, outside of being able to pay $400,000 per engineer, because we just aren't fortunately at that size yet. I think almost everything in that book is like the way that I think most companies should be run, and it's how we've run the business here.
Oh, I love it. Okay. How do you filter advice, especially from people you respect?
Yeah, I think like the most important thing when you are receiving advice is like, are you getting advice from someone who deserves to be giving that advice, right? So, there's always the peanut gallery on Twitter and X around like telling us how we should be running the company. But like a lot of these people who are telling me how they would run the company or how they would do product either has never built a company or built a company to the size or success that we've had or built a product similar to ours. So typically I think filtering your advice based on people that have been there and done that and something that you actually admire and can trust, I think is pretty important.
Yeah.
I think everyone has like cheap advice online and like in person as well. But if they haven't like walked the walk, I think it's like worth questioning whether that advice is worth taking.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, where do they get that advice? Do they read it in some book and they have actually executed on it? So they don't know the first thing if it actually is going to be helpful. All right. What's one fear you've never fully shaken and how do you work around it?
Fear of every single day of this thing not working. I think like a lot of the fuel of building the company has been fueled by anxiety and stress and the fear of it not working out. Working, I guess, is probably a sliding scale, right? Is that a huge acquisition? Is it going public? Is it getting to the point where I'm financially comfortable, where I feel like the business was a success because it made both myself and our employees and co-founders all like financially well off? But I mean, my biggest regret, and it's like you can't ever play scared, right? So like we're constantly on the attack and being very aggressive with everything that we're doing at the company. But the inverse and the battle that you're facing there is like I've dedicated my past 4 years to this. I've like sacrificed like friendships, relationships, like my well-being to be working 16 hours a day, like more or less 7 days a week on this business. And if for whatever reason we got wiped out by some competition or made a huge mistake that we couldn't recover from, like the amount of guilt and like some people would love to be like, oh, but you made it so far and you learned so much. But there's like some level of like that isn't enough. And so I think the fear of this failing, right? Because I think in the first few months, or the first year, like 9 out of 10 startups fail is like the classic stat that everyone always gives. And I think you don't expect to fail, but you like haven't really gotten off the ground and you gave it your all. And like, there's a great learning experience from like maybe giving a company your all and not making it past the first year. But as you grow, I think the expectations grow with it. And like the higher you go, the higher, the more you fall, however you,
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
butchered that.
No, no,
But
you're
yes, directionally right. And so, yeah, I think that's the fear that I live with more than anything else.
right. Do you think at all, because obviously you're around other founders, I'm sure, again, a lot of folks, maybe what you would consider many steps ahead of you, they've sold businesses, they've done whatever. Do you think about like the whole, okay, am I exiting this or am I doing it for 20 years? Like, does that like, do you have those battles within yourself of like what you want to do?
Not entirely. I think I was knocking us earlier for lack of focus in some areas, but I think what we are very good at is I typically don't plan anything more than 6 months. Like I won't do like a full year roadmap. I'll do like the 6 month roadmap because just with like the nature of startups and how fast everything moves, I think it's nearly impossible to know what we're going to be prioritizing in November of this year because there's so much that is dependent on what's being built between now and then. And so for me, it's like I'm having an incredible amount of fun. I love the team. I love what we're building. And I know that we haven't even scratched the surface of what is possible with this platform and like the impact it can have on the world. And so not really looking of like, is this an IPO path or is this an acquisition or like when does that timing make sense? I think I could say that we are going to IPO and I could be laser focused on that. And like maybe a company that makes such perfect sense from like a synergistic perspective comes along and offers us something we would be foolish to say no to.
Yeah.
And like vice versa. Maybe I think that an acquisition at some point in the future is the off ramp to being part of something much bigger. But if we keep growing 70, 80% every year, there's a point where there's not many companies who can acquire us and an IPO becomes kind of the only option up. And so, yeah, it's hard to plan. So I'm just enjoying it and focus on like the next 6 months.
Yeah. There's something to be said, the sports analogy, like just being on the field in the moment and like, and then you realize like, oh, the clock expired, like the game's over. It's like, just because you're in the moment so much and enthralled in each and every day, I think there's something really special about that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, here we go. What's your personal reset button when stress, anxiety, or overwhelm creep up?
Yeah. So I've like, I think not so coincidentally adopted like different hobbies and habits that are like the complete opposite of me sitting at my desk 16 hours, like stressed with tons of anxiety, working all the time. And so when I moved to LA 4 years ago, like I picked up surfing immediately. I'm still, I'd say slightly above average, not incredible by any means, but like just being on the water on like a Sunday morning at like 7 a.m. with the sun beating on you and not having your phone or any screens at all. Like I could be out there for hours if it wasn't so cold.
Yeah.
So surfing is an amazing reset for me. I try to do hot yoga every weekend as well.
Nice.
So, but again, the commonality there is like two things where like no phone, no screen, a lot of like solitude and like thinking to yourself and either under like the duress of like a very hot room and like trying not to pass out
Yeah.
or like doing something kind of challenging like surfing, but kind of being alone and just kind of giving yourself time to think.
Yeah.
So those hobbies. And then I also picked up in Venice, like breath work. I used to do that every Sunday afternoon. It's like, sure, there's a name for the technique, but like intense breathing for like 45 minutes, that kind of gives you like a high and like a state of, I don't know, it's like a very hippie type thing, but like very meditative as well. And so it's funny that I kind of only know it's like a blessing and a curse. I really only have two speeds. It's all the way like 100 where I am just headphones in, focused on the business, like not eating, not blinking, just like getting work done as intensely as I can. Or I'm like away from screens doing hot yoga, surfing, breath work, whatever to kind of relax and reset.
Well, then there's something in there about what you really are doing, creating boundaries where like this is my work time. So, okay, I'm going to go hard at it. But then because I think a lot of folks, I don't know if you see this a lot, but I feel like a lot of folks, and I battle with this myself, is like there's always like your toe in instead of like all the way. It's kind of the whole idea. It's better to be 100% than 98%. I don't know if you ever heard that. It's like, so some people are like, well, I'm going to take, like, I see this at the gym all the time. Folks, like they're there scrolling on their phone. It's like, just get the workout and do, just relax, I don't know if you see that as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, no, for sure. And like, I am a big believer that balance doesn't exist. I think like a more, I really am 100 or zero at all times. And most people would say work hard till 6 or 7, watch a movie, like wind down every night. And I saw this headline from this video yesterday that I just loved. It was balance doesn't exist until my goals are hit. And I think that like is a perfect encapsulation of how I think. Like, while until we are this like massively successful multi-billion-dollar business, and like I'm sure the goalposts will continue to move, and so like I don't know when success actually hits, but until I feel that, I feel like balance is actually just a distraction, where if I go out to dinner on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, I'm just thinking about what I could be doing if I was at my desk, like pushing things forward. So probably more of a curse than a blessing, but it's gotten us this far, and I've definitely leaned into it.
Well, I think you guys are successful though. You got to give. I mean, it's like think of it like in the sports again analogy. It's like okay, you ran a 5K, now you're going to do a 10K, then you're going to do a marathon, then an Ironman. Like you're just bettering yourself each and every day or year. So there's success there. So
Yeah,
give
for
give,
sure.
give yourself a little credit. All right, last one here. If you could put one message in every fortune cookie, what would it be?
What would it be? It's a great question. But what's your answer for that?
Well, I mean, the podcast name comes to mind always is stop overthinking it, just get started.
Yeah, that's. I was on My First Million the other week, and that was like my advice as well. Where he was like, "What would you say to other founders?" And the first thing that came to mind was, I think so many people are caught up with planning and worried about failure and like, what if it doesn't work? And a lot of our success has just been putting one foot in front of the other and testing and trying to get 1% better every day. So, a huge believer in just get started, but I won't take that as the answer because that's the name of your
That's
podcast.
fine.
Yeah, I'm trying to balance the fortune cookie of like trying to avoid being super cheesy and just having something like believe in yourself versus like something of like more
Well,
hardo of the only
well,
thing you can.
what do you think? Let me ask it a different way. Maybe this will. What do you think that Tyler of 2015 needed to hear?
So the thing that I've kind of like lived by is like the only thing that I can control is how hard I work. Like my work ethic is the only, like you can't control the weather, you can't control what other companies do, you can't control like macro market dynamics. But the only thing that I'm truly able to control, I guess two things would be like my mentality and how much effort I'm willing to put into anything. And so a lot again of the story of beehiiv is doing the things that don't scale, figuring out ways to grow from like, like the early days we didn't have a security team. The example that I gave is like we needed to prevent people from signing up and spamming other people on the platform, but we didn't have a security team. And so we actually just added a Google form that asks for everyone's like name, a link to their email, a link to their Twitter profile, and to their LinkedIn profile. And then I would manually every morning at 5 a.m., every midday at noon, and then every night before I went to bed, would go through that form and manually press a button to accept every single person to be able to use the platform. But what I also did was I followed every single person who signed up for the platform because they gave me their Twitter profile and their LinkedIn profile. And so it was like a nice touch and definitely falls under the bucket of things that don't scale. And like no large unicorn startup would ever have a process so antiquated to go one by one and improve things. But it's like kind of speaks to like the work ethic of like we just want, like to your point, just get started. It was we could have spent 3 months building this like automated security system, or we could spend 3 minutes, put a Google form there, and it just requires a lot of my time and a lot of my effort to make that work. But we did make it work. So yeah, I'm a big believer in effort being the thing that you can control.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting with what you just did there, because with bigger corporations, as we all know, it's like you have these stringent systems, and you sort of have to work between, again, a lot of hierarchy and red tape and stuff. When you are small, you're nimble, so you can do something tomorrow. You can try something. Like if that didn't work out or it seemed like it wasn't fruitful, great, you do something different. But I think I mean, you're probably still in that stage at beehiiv where it's like you feel like you're very nimble and you could, ratchet up stuff very quickly, right?
Yeah, I actually think like I just started like really deep diving into Claude Code and like all of this other stuff. And like it's almost like training this whole wave of like this generation of it's very iterative learning. Like no one no like and the way that you interact with these chatbots and like AI in general, it's like you kind of describe what you want and then it's wrong and then you go back and you keep like and before you know it, 3 hours later you have like a fully coded app that's solving problems for you. And so yeah, I just think this like iterative approach to being open-minded, not being afraid of failure, and trying to like push towards your goals and get like 1% better with each attempt is really like that compounding that helps you really find success.
Yeah. So I have a teenager and I always think about like when he's in school and like the stuff they're learning. I'm like, this seems so archaic and outdated. It's not really setting these kids up for success. So I mean, your thought there, that would be a good, maybe like blog for you. I'd be curious your thoughts on that as you think about like if you had to retool the education system, how would you think about it from like a builder's mindset? Because I think that's something, again, like a lot of folks struggle with. They're still in the outdated what was done 20 years ago and not thinking how quick we've changed. I mean, think of 3 years. When did ChatGPT come out? Like three
Yeah, I
years
think
ago,
about three
really?
years ago.
Gosh, blessed. I mean, where the world is.
And I do think there are some of these founders and entrepreneurs who are building these new like AI infused schools where every student has like their catered learning curriculum with their own iPad that's powered by AI. It has guardrails on it. If you have a quicker rate of learning, you advance faster rather than being in like a static classroom where everyone's learning the same thing at the same pace. And so I mean, that is going to be like the future of education. I don't have a kid yet, and so I haven't put too much thought into that.
Yeah.
But that would be my assumption of where this is going.
Yeah. Well, it has to go back to, I think there has to be a fine line because I think still going back to the wood shop day. I don't know if when you were in school, if you did like wood
Yeah, I
shop
think
or
so.
anything like that, that type of thing, like the home ec, those things that really are valuable and mix obviously with the new tech. Oh, all right. So let me get you out of here on this. We'll spend a few more minutes here because I do want to just get your thoughts when you think about like businesses starting today. And obviously newsletters, which is hilarious. Sometimes I see online, people are like, oh, newsletters are dead. They're on the downhill. And I don't agree with that. I think there's an opportunity to connect with people. But I feel like there's a massive gap with like these kind of mid-sized to larger businesses, enterprise businesses, certainly startups as well that aren't doing it. If we had to just do a checklist of like, okay, here's the first 5 things to get started, starting a newsletter, what would be your thoughts if we're just kind of iterating here for those folks?
Yeah, I think what you're hitting on is I wrote about this actually like 2 weeks ago in my newsletter, but the Wall Street Journal put out a post in December about companies hiring storytellers, and it went pretty viral on X and LinkedIn because hiring it was like a $275,000 job. Being head of storytelling for Vanta was the company that they used. And I actually think it speaks to a wider narrative that now Notion, Kava, USAA, like all of these companies that aren't media companies are hiring editorial positions and storytellers. And I think that speaks to the shifting nature of how you get in front of your customers. It used to be one, like if you had a large Facebook page or LinkedIn page or whatever, you can reliably get in front of your audience. But with the shift of like content based algorithms like TikTok, where it doesn't matter how many followers you have, it matters how good the content is. It's kind of like democratized at the expense of like the larger accounts. And so it's harder to reliably get in front of your audience. SEO has been like super professionalized and commoditized, and like also is like not dying, but with the shift towards chatbots, it's becoming less relevant. And then paid, but between Meta and Google, like CPMs and CPCs have 2 to 3x over the past decade. And so like those are kind of the traditional channels that you'd use to get in front of your audience. And so I think these companies are waking up to, we need to own our audience and distribution in a medium, whether it's email, podcast, video, SMS. And we need to hire people that can build these narratives and create stories so we can actually attract customers from the point of content leading. And so to answer your question, I think it's one, just like always starting with like your goal, which is, are we building this newsletter or media property as like a for-profit entity, as like a new revenue stream? Or is it like, Robinhood acquired Robinhood Snacks, or they've rebranded to Robinhood Snacks. It was Market Snacks. And like the goal is not, I don't think, to monetize that. It's for Robinhood to remain top of mind with a
Right.
daily newsletter that's in the inbox of people reading about the markets. So they see XYZ story and then immediately open the Robinhood app to be able to buy and trade on
Right.
that stock. And so I think the first step would just be understanding like what the goals are of the initiative.
Yeah. I hear these. I wrote down 3 excuses I hear all the time. I don't have time. I don't know what to write. I don't know how people will find me. Like that seems like the reason why people don't start and put out a newsletter.
Yeah, and I'd find it hard to believe, one, if you got in a room with your colleagues to like brainstorm those three questions. I think those are the three biggest excuses, but
Yeah.
like all and depends on like the scale and ambition of your company. But
Yeah.
if you're looking to scale to tens, hundreds of millions of revenue, you should be able to solve those three questions for being able to spin up a newsletter, because I think we've already seen the playbook of the upside of being able to own your audience and distribution, and how
Yeah.
it does lead to brand awareness, loyalty, retention, and revenue.
Yeah.
And so I think the proof is in the pudding, and that pudding is our blog post that we're going to start publishing more case studies of like these companies that are doing that. Because we've actually discovered that 25% of our top users aren't media companies. They are SaaS, B2B, B2C
Mm.
businesses who are launching a media arm to reach their customers. And so I actually think this is like this trend is going to continue to accelerate. And I think every company is going to think about, how do I actually reach my customers and build something unique in a world where AI kind of commoditizes both functionality and features, but
Mm.
also content creation.
Mm. So let's end on this then. If you had instead of advice, which we talked about earlier, depends on who's it coming from. But if you had to give people an action item, so something today to get started, and let's keep it around the newsletter space, what would you give them? What would you share to kind of help them along the way?
Yeah, well, you tee that up too easily for me not to say create an account on beehiiv. So that's definitely the first thing that they should do. But after that, I think it really just comes like to like a strategy session. Like one is kind of, again, back to the point of the podcast or the name of the podcast. Like at Morning Brew, we launched multiple verticals of newsletters. But when we launched a new vertical, it was an internal newsletter that we tested and tried different things and had like employees, friends, and family read for like 2 months before ever actually publishing it. And so I think you can ideate and see, is this valuable to my readers, and just test it with a small cohort and kind of like take those iterations and improve it over time without making a massive announcement and doing PR about this whole like new media thing you're doing. I think you realize that when it's not that difficult to write a newsletter, that the value is pretty high, meeting people in the inbox where they have to be pretty much every day for their work anyway.
Yeah.
And that there's like a lot of upside to doing it.
Yeah. And you're writing, a lot of these companies are writing blogs anyways. They're writing different things. They're writing case studies. Why don't you turn that into a newsletter? Just another outlet for you.
Yeah, and there's so many different creative ways to create that type of content. Like it doesn't have to be a news-based content. It could be case studies. It could just be, I mean, the holy grail is being something that provides value to the audience where they actually look forward to it, right? So rather than it being just 1,000 words of plugging your own features and software and your own case studies, is there something that your core audience actually wants? So going back to the Robinhood snacks example, right? Like they aren't just talking about what's best for Robinhood and like the new features that they're rolling out. They know that their target user and demographic are people who are interested in the markets, and so they're actually just building a great market digest that you can read in your inbox every morning. And if you enjoy it, that loyalty and enjoyment kind of bottles up to the company level, which then makes you want to use their app more and become more of like a brand affiliate for Robinhood. So yeah, I think there's like different layers to think about it.
Hmm. Tyler, this was a lot of fun, man. I appreciate you coming on and sharing that. We'll have everyone go sign up for beehiiv right now and
That's
get their account started.
that's step one.
Step one. Anything else? Any final thoughts, comments? I mean, you're on what, at Tyler Denk anywhere, basically, right?
Yeah, X or LinkedIn, definitely. You can shoot me a follow. Definitely subscribe to the newsletter, Big Desk Energy. It's mail.bigdeskenergy.com. It's a weekly newsletter that goes out every Tuesday.
And fill out the survey with the new format coming soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Tyler. I appreciate it, man.
Cool. Thanks for having me on.